Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated to a medieval Pokémon world. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 191, Jenny Family. Lucian hummed softly in agreement. Everything was proceeding exactly as he had expected. However, a thought still crossed his mind. Under his rule, would an organization like Team Plasma still emerge in the Unova region? Even if it did, it would not matter much. Zekrom and Reshiram had already returned to their original forms, merging with Kuram and restoring the original dragon. Even if someone like Getsis attempted to use Kuram's power to dominate Unova, it would be impossible. After all, no one could defeat Kuram as it was now. Lucian quickly set the matter aside. It was time to move on to the next major reform: the unification of all currencies across the Unova region. By the way, Your Majesty, Elif suddenly recalled something. Thanks to your previous newspaper article about the Joy Sisters working at Pokémon centers, as well as the recruitment notice for Nurse Joys, the Pokémon centers in Dragon City and Black City have also received Nurse Joy applications. Hearing this, Lucian was not surprised. He merely nodded to himself. As expected. In this world, there were far more Nurse Joys than the two commonly known ones. However, compared to the more publicly active Joy Sisters, many Nurse Joys were far better at concealing their identities and living quietly. But I still do not understand, Elif said hesitantly. Why does Your Majesty insist on recruiting only Joys? The work at Pokémon centers is not something only they can do. Lucian explained calmly, because I want Joys to become a symbol of the Pokémon center itself. When people see them, they will instinctively feel safe and trusting their Pokémon for treatment. If a Pokémon is sick, find Nurse Joy. If a Pokémon is injured, find Nurse Joy. Their identical appearance also makes promotion and public trust far easier. Elif's eyes lit up with understanding. Your Majesty is wise. It now seemed that Lucian's earlier efforts to publicly introduce Nurse Joys through the newspapers, proving that they were not ominous or mysterious figures, had finally borne fruit. So they are finally willing to step into the open, Lucian mused. He then added, Elif, have all Joy applicants been instructed to come to Lucian City? These Joys were not anime-style miracle healers. They required standardized training before officially taking up their posts. Yes, Your Majesty, Elif replied. At the same time, in the western region of Unova, within a border town of roughly 40,000 people, far from where the flames of war had once raged, an envoy from Lucian City stood in the town's central square, accompanied by a rose raid. In the past, the envoy said clearly, we humans oppressed and enslaved Pokémon through violence. But that was wrong. Pokémon and humans are both part of this land. The square was already packed with townspeople. Some listened with curiosity, others with confusion, and a few with cautious skepticism as they watched the envoy from the royal capital. His gentle yet persuasive voice echoed across the square. At the edge of the crowd, several figures dressed in long robes and hooded cloaks stood silently. Their faces were hidden, their expressions unreadable as they observed the speech. His Majesty Lucian intends to build a kingdom without oppression or slavery, a land where humans and Pokémon coexist peacefully and live happily. Here, even those who were once slaves can earn wages through honest labor. With Pokémon, we no longer need to fear hunger or freezing to death. And those with talent can even become Pokémon trainers. As the word spread through the square, the expressions of the gathered crowd slowly began to change. My lord, is all of this really true? Someone in the crowd could not help but ask. Of course, the envoy replied with a gentle smile. He pointed toward a red-roofed building not far away, its doors still closed. That is the Pokémon Center I just mentioned. It will officially open very soon. Humans and magical beasts, no, Pokémon, another person asked hesitantly, can they truly live together? The envoy did not answer immediately. Instead, he turned to the Roserade beside him and gently reached out to stroke its head. Roserade smiled softly, clearly enjoying the attention. It did not attack. It did not show any hostility. On the contrary, it seemed quite fond of the man beside it. No words were needed. This was the clearest answer of all. A ripple of astonishment passed through the crowd. More and more people began asking questions, and the envoy patiently answered each one. At the edge of the square, several hooded figures silently observed the scene. After a moment, they withdrew their gazes, exchanged brief glances, nodded to one another, and quietly turned away. They slipped into the narrow back alleys of the town and soon arrived at an unremarkable mansion. Once inside, the door closed behind them, and the figures removed their hoods. Beneath the cloaks were strikingly handsome faces, each framed by long, dark green hair. Their expressions differed slightly, but their features were nearly identical, as if copied from the same mold. Inside the mansion, many others were already gathered. At a glance, despite differences in posture and demeanor, their faces were almost indistinguishable. This was the Jenny family, a clan that had long lived in seclusion. Because of their identical appearances, they had often been treated as outcasts, even labeled as cursed or unlucky. Although the family's leader, Jenny Ray, was a capable and resolute woman who had once dominated the streets through her own strength and founded the Thunder Gang, most of the other Jennys still wore cloaks and hoods when going outside, unwilling to draw attention or invite prejudice. At this moment, seated at the head of the room was a woman with a scar running across her face, her bearing bold and heroic. She was Jenny Ray, the current leader of the Jenny family. In her hands was a newspaper from Lucian City, which she was reading carefully. Her gaze lingered on a particular headline. The story of Nurse Joy and the Pokémon Center. Nurse Joy. Jenny Ray murmured softly. Another family that shared the same fate as theirs. Working at Pokémon centers, trusted and beloved by countless people for their medical skill, she read quietly. A trace of interest appeared in her eyes. More than anything else, she wanted to know how King Lucian had managed to change the public's perception of the Nurse Joys. At that moment, the door opened again. Big Sister, one of the officer Jennies, reported as she entered. A stranger has arrived in town. He claims to be from Lucian City. He's promoting Pokémon and trainers, saying that His Majesty Lucian wants to build a kingdom without oppression or slavery, where humans and Pokémon can live peacefully and happily together. Oh? Jenny Ray's eyes narrowed slightly. Lucian City. Once again, something connected to King Lucian. Her lips curved faintly. Interesting. Chapter 192. Big Sister, what should we do? Another officer Jenny asked. All eyes turned toward the woman seated at the head of the room, their gazes filled with admiration and respect. Ray Jenny was the eldest sister of their clan. After the world had rejected them, she was the one who had taken them in. With iron resolve and extraordinary courage, she had led them to carve out a place for themselves in this border town. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she fell into deep thought. Even in this remote region, she had heard bits and pieces about what was happening throughout the kingdom. Lucian, the new monarch of this land, had ended the war alongside a dragon named Kurum, saving countless humans and Pokémon alike before ascending the throne. Not only that, he had pushed forward sweeping reforms despite fierce resistance from nobles and lords. He abolished slavery. He provided aid to commoners and former slaves who had once lived at the bottom of society. He promoted education, introduced paper so that even the poorest citizens could afford books, and opened paths that had once been sealed shut. And recently, he had begun advocating peaceful coexistence between humans and magical beasts. No, not magical beasts anymore. Pokémon. Ray Jenny lowered her gaze to the newspaper in her hands, her eyes lingering on the story about the two Nurse Joys. As the leader of the Jenny family, she did not want her sisters to continue living in the shadows, burdened by a fate they never chose. If possible, who would not want to stand openly beneath the sun, living a normal life like everyone else? At that moment, she sensed it clearly. This might be an opportunity. A real opportunity for the Jenny family to step into the open world. After a brief silence, she spoke. Continue contacting that envoy. The Jennies below her straightened immediately. Yes, eldest sister. Several of them quickly turned and left the stronghold. They pulled their hoods over their heads and moved through the streets and alleys of the town. Some local residents noticed the oddly dressed figures and glanced their way. Yet those looks held no malice. Some were even filled with gratitude. Because even in hardship, they had never turned to crime. Unlike the gentle and soft-spoken Joy family, the Jennies were resolute and decisive, never content to passively accept their fate. The Thunder Gang was not a traditional criminal organization. They never bullied the weak. Instead, they quietly protected the neighborhood. They helped parents search for lost children. They delivered food to starving families. Because of this, the residents of the district did not fear them. Their fierceness was merely a shield. The Thunder Gang existed only so the Jennies could survive. Lucian City. Lucian listened to reports from across the kingdom, nodding slightly in approval. More Nurse Joys had come forward after seeing the newspaper articles. However, there was still no word from the Jenny family. In truth, Nurse Joy and Jenny were not the only possible candidates for positions at Pokémon centers and police stations. Lucian felt that both the police stations and the Pokémon centers needed a symbol. A symbol that would make people in Pokémon instinctively think of healing and trust the moment they saw a Nurse Joy. A symbol that would make people feel safe, reassured, and protected the instant they saw an Officer Jenny. Only then could Pokémon centers and police stations be smoothly promoted throughout the Unova region. And for the Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny families, working openly in these institutions would gradually reshape how the world viewed them, replacing fear and prejudice with trust and respect. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. At last, the candidate chosen to cooperate with the 3 legendary Pokémon and bring abundance to the land of Unova was decided. It was a boy named Arthur. Arthur was 15 years old, born to an ordinary farming family. He was honest, diligent, and hardworking, the son of a farmer who had spent his childhood working the fields alongside his father. From a young age, Arthur had learned how to tend crops, judge soil quality, and read the land. One day, by chance, he encountered a Diglett while plowing the fields. Instead of fleeing, the two became friends. Ever since then, aside from attending Pokémon school, Arthur spent most of his time in the fields with Diglett, using its abilities to help his father farm more efficiently. Inside the palace, Arthur stood nervously in the Great Hall, brought before Lucian by a leaf. His head was lowered, his hands clenched tightly at his sides. Arthur felt deep gratitude and reverence toward His Majesty. Because of Lucian, his family no longer went hungry. Because of Lucian, he could attend school. Because of Lucian, he had met Diglett. His father often said at the dinner table that His Majesty Lucian was the greatest king in history, and that they must work hard and never let him down. Arthur did not fully understand politics or reform. But he knew one thing clearly. Since Lucian became king, their lives had grown better and better. Lost in these thoughts, Arthur could not help but steal a glance upward at the tall figure seated upon the throne. That small movement did not escape Lucian's notice. Arthur. Yes. The boy stiffened and dropped to one knee in alarm. Lucian paused. Do not be so nervous, he said gently. Stand up. Your name is Arthur, correct? Arthur stood up hastily, still keeping his head lowered. Yes, Your Majesty. Lucian shifted the topic slightly, his voice calm and warm. Is the Pokémon beside you your partner? At the mention of Diglett, Arthur immediately relaxed a little. Yes. Its name is Diglett. I met it in the fields. I see. Lucian smiled faintly. Judging from its expression, it seems very fond of you. Arthur scratched the back of his head, embarrassed. I like Diglett a lot too. Lucian nodded, clearly pleased. Seeing this makes me very happy. Then his expression grew serious. Arthur, I summoned you here today because I have an important task to entrust to you. One that concerns not only the kingdom, but the land itself. Arthur swallowed nervously.
Do you see these 3 Pokémon?
Arthur cautiously raised his head. The next moment, his breath caught. 3 Pokémon sat upon clouds beside Lucian, their arms crossed, each radiating a different presence. They are Landorus, Thundurus, and Tornadus, Lucian said.
They possess the power to enrich the land and bring abundant harvests.
Legend says that wherever they go, crops flourish and fields thrive.
Arthur's eyes widened in awe.
The reason I have summoned you, Lucian continued, is to ask you to travel across the kingdom alongside them. You will combine your farming knowledge with their power.
Together, you will bring abundance to Unova. To this land beneath our feet. Chapter 193, The Birth of the Medieval Pokeball. Landorus, Tornadus, Thundurus? Upon hearing Lucian's words, shock instantly spread across Arthur's youthful face. Bringing a bountiful harvest to this land, was that truly possible? No.
His Majesty would never lie to him. Arthur reached that conclusion instinctively. At that moment, the 3 Pokémon seated beside the throne slowly turned their gazes toward him. Landorus, Tornadus, and Thundurus crossed their arms as they drifted forward atop white clouds, circling Arthur and Diglett in silence, carefully observing the boy. At such close range, Arthur could clearly feel the immense power radiating from them. His body tensed, and he did not dare move, allowing them to examine him without resistance.
After a long moment, the 3 legendary Pokémon stopped.
They turned their gazes toward Lucian and nodded slightly. Seeing this, Lucian smiled. It seems Landorus and the others are very satisfied with you, Arthur.
Ha! Arthur stood there blankly, not yet fully comprehending what those words meant. Lucian's expression grew solemn. I will ask you one final time, Arthur. Are you willing to work together with Landorus, Tornadus, and Thundurus to bring a bountiful harvest to the humans and Pokémon of this land, and to complete this task? Arthur looked at the 3 legendary Pokémon before him.
Only now did he truly grasp the weight of what was being entrusted to him.
He was just a farmer's son, ordinary in every sense.
Never had he imagined that someone like him could earn the trust of the king. As memories surfaced of everything Lucian had done for the people, for his family, and for the land itself, Arthur felt his chest tighten. They had received so much, and had given nothing in return. His eyes reddened slightly.
Straightening his back, Arthur spoke with unwavering resolve. I will not fail your Majesty's expectations. I swear it. Lucian paused.
That will be enough, he said calmly, though he could not help but reflect on Arthur's resolve. In this era, leaving one's home to venture across the land was no small matter. Wild Pokémon still viewed humans as intruders, and danger lurked everywhere. Arthur did not know just how powerful the 3 cloud gods truly were. From his perspective, this journey carried real risk.
Are you truly certain? Lucian asked once more. Yes, Your Majesty. Arthur nodded firmly. This is something I must do.
Lucian studied him for a moment, then nodded.
Very well.
I entrust this mission to you, Arthur.
He then turned to the 3 legendary Pokémon.
Landorus, Tornadus, Thundurus.
I ask that you also protect my people.
The 3 Pokémon nodded in unison. This would be their first true cooperation with a human, but since it benefited both sides, they would naturally safeguard him. Seeing this, Lucian finally felt at ease. Before you depart, return home and say your farewells to your parents properly, he said. I will have the necessary supplies prepared for you.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Escorted by the guards, Arthur left the castle to return home. Left alone, Lucian began preparing for Arthur's journey, drawing inspiration from the travels of trainers in the modern Pokémon world.
Unfortunately, this era lacked many conveniences.
There were no spatial backpacks yet, no miraculous packs that could store half a household inside. Unlike the trainers of legend, he could not simply give Arthur a bag filled with cookware, bedding, and supplies.
Lucien sighed softly. If only spatial backpacks already existed. As the thought surfaced, a translucent panel appeared before him. Spatial backpack. A magical backpack utilizing spatial compression and folding technology. Though its exterior appears ordinary, its internal space is vast enough to hold 2 cows. Unlock condition, information age. Exchange requirement. 2 million satisfaction points. Lucien stared at the panel. Information age. That future lay far beyond the present. For now, it remained nothing more than a distant dream. Oh well, one step at a time. Lucien closed the panel. Early the next morning, after properly saying goodbye to his parents, Arthur packed his belongings. Under the expectant yet reluctant gazes of those seeing him off, he left Lucien City with his pack, accompanied by Landorus, Tornadus, and Thundurus. They carried with them an extraordinarily heavy mission. One that could bring earth-shattering change to the entire Unova region. If everything went smoothly, next year's harvest across Unova would reach an unprecedented level. If not for the fact that he needed to remain in the castle to handle the affairs of the kingdom, Lucien would have liked nothing more than to personally visit the various cities of Unova and see what they were like in this era. Unfortunately, that was not possible. After the farewell, Lucien returned to the castle with his Pokémon. Not long after, Elif hurried over from the royal workshop to report the latest progress. Your Majesty, the steam engine you designed has officially been put into use. Its performance is astonishing. Factory productivity has increased by nearly 10 times. That figure was within expectations. After all, assembly line production was inherently efficient. Lucien nodded. How is the steel mill progressing? Our workers have completed smelting the iron ore from the mines and have successfully produced the rails you mentioned, Elif replied. Excellent. Lucien was visibly pleased. Then we'll begin with the nearest locations: Twin Dragon City, Rippletown, Black City, and Kagome Village. Recruit railway workers and begin laying tracks between Lucien City and those areas. Yes, Your Majesty. Elif then reached into his pocket and produced a spherical object. There's one more thing. The newest type of pokeball has been successfully completed by the craftsman. Lucien looked up. In Elif's hand was a pokeball that closely resembled the familiar red and white design from Legend, though its structure was clearly more primitive and its craftsmanship unmistakably medieval. As Lucien examined it, information surfaced naturally in his mind. Pokeball, medieval. A pokeball crafted from special berries and gemstones, imbued with powerful binding properties. Used to capture wild Pokémon by throwing it at them. Due to technological limitations of the era, it cannot shrink to marble size. A Pokémon captured by one Pokeball cannot be captured again by another. Lucien reached out and took the Pokeball. He glanced at the Dragonite standing loyally at his side and spoke gently. Dragonite, come here. I'll give you a new nest. Ha! Dragonite blinked its large, round eyes, clearly confused but curious. Lucien tossed the Pokeball. The ball struck Dragonite's body and rebounded slightly, releasing a burst of red light that enveloped Dragonite completely and drew it inside. The Pokeball landed on the ground and wobbled faintly, as though its occupant were adjusting to the unfamiliar environment. After a brief moment, it went completely still. Chapter 194, Flying Pokémon Taxi in Operation. Dragonite, come out. Lucien picked up the Pokeball from the ground and pressed the button on it. The next second, a milky white light burst forth. Within the glow, Dragonite's figure gradually emerged. Looking at this familiar scene, Lucien felt a surge of emotion. He had finally created it. Elif had also noticed the difference between this new Pokeball and the one His Majesty had used previously. The earlier Pokeball had merely been a container that allowed Pokémon to shrink and remain inside. But this one was different. This Pokeball could be actively controlled by the trainer. Not only could a Pokémon be sealed within it, but it could also be released at will. It's incredible, Elif could not help but exclaim. More importantly, Lucien said calmly,
once a Pokémon is captured by this Pokeball, no one else can capture it again. For trainers, this was equivalent to an additional layer of protection. They would no longer need to worry about their Pokémon being taken or claimed by others.
Your Majesty, shall we proceed with the next phase of the plan? Elif asked. Lucian fell into deep thought.
At present, Pokémon centers and friendly shops across the region were mostly completed, but the joys had not yet fully arrived. Moreover, this new Pokeball had only just been developed and was far from mass production.
How many Pokeballs has the factory produced so far? Lucian asked.
Approximately 2,000, Elif replied.
We have nearly exhausted the berry harvest from the cone trees near Lucian City. However, people within the territory have already begun planting more. Lucian shook his head. That will take too long.
Even with grass-type Pokémon assisting in cultivation, cone trees required time to bear fruit.
Waiting for the next harvest would delay everything.
After a moment of consideration, Lucian said, purchase large quantities of berries from other cities and send them directly to the Pokeball factory.
Yes, Your Majesty, Elif responded immediately. Have the joys from other regions arrived yet? Lucian asked.
We dispatched trial operation flying Pokémon taxis to collect them, Elif replied.
They should be arriving soon. Lucian nodded slightly. Once the joys arrived in Lucian City, they would require standardized training.
They needed to learn medical procedures, herbal identification, and Pokémon treatment methods before being assigned to their respective regions.
At the same time, high in the sky,
several joys from different parts of the kingdom were riding inside a flying Pokémon taxi operated by Braviary, heading toward Lucian City. Beyond the window stretched a vast blue sky. White clouds drifted lazily, and the land of Unova far below appeared impossibly small. The joys sat close together, their faces tense. None of them dared look down. This was their first time riding such a vehicle and their first time flying so high. If they fell from here, they would surely die instantly. At least, that was what one of them could not stop imagining. There were 4 joys aboard the flying taxi.
The gentle and scholarly eldest sister, Joy Aileen. The calm and composed second sister, Joy Amelia. The lively and cheerful third sister, Joy Rin. And the precocious youngest sister, Joy Ivy. The 4 sisters had originally lived with their parents in a forest outside Funtopia City. Since the end of the war, newspapers had become increasingly widespread throughout Unova. Not long ago, their father, who worked in Funtopia City, brought several newspapers home. From them, the sisters learned about 2 joys named Lena and Selena. They read how the 2 worked at the Pokémon Center in Lucian City. At first, the people had been wary of the 2 girls who looked exactly alike. But as time passed, and as the joys continued to heal injured humans and Pokémon with remarkable skill, the people gradually accepted them. They lived happily, no different from ordinary citizens. That story deeply moved the sisters. They had spent their lives hiding in the forest, avoiding discrimination. Now, learning that Lucian City welcomed joys instead of fearing them, a longing stirred in their hearts. The youngest sister agreed immediately. After discussing the matter with Amelia, the 2 convinced their third sister as well. The eldest sister, Aileen, strongly opposed the idea at first. But in the end, out of concern for her sisters, she chose to accompany them. As the eldest, it was her responsibility to protect them. The 4 sisters left a letter for their parents and traveled to the Trainer Association in Castelia City. After explaining their purpose, the staff of the Pokémon Association quickly arranged transportation for them to Lucian City. That was the flying Pokémon taxi they were currently riding in. When the vehicle first took off, the sisters were startled. But very quickly, they discovered the advantages of this form of transportation. It was incredibly fast. This flying taxi was far faster than any oxcart or horse-drawn carriage they had ever seen. In the blink of an eye, Castelia had already disappeared into the distance. Ivy cautiously pressed her forehead against the window, peering outside. What greeted her eyes was the vast expanse of the Unova region. Endless green plains stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with dense forests.
Rivers wound across the land like living veins, and even distant mountain ranges were clearly visible from this height. Staring at the magnificent scenery, Ivy's pupils widened, and an excitement she had never felt before surged within her.
Wow! It's so beautiful.
Ivy, be careful. Don't lean too far, Aileen called out worriedly. Sister, come and look. It's incredible, Ivy urged excitedly. Hearing this, the other three sisters could not resist. They leaned toward the window, and after just one glance, they froze.
So amazing, one of them murmured.
Aileen, the eldest, opened her mouth but found herself unable to form proper words.
After a moment, she could only say, "It really is amazing." Not just amazing.
It's super amazing, Ivy said, her eyes shining. If Mom knew we were flying in the sky, she would be shocked.
At that moment, the four sisters noticed the outline of a city gradually appearing on the ground ahead.
They all turned their gazes toward it. The driver at the front, who was also Braviary's partner, turned around with a smile.
We're almost at Lucian City. Hearing this, the sisters immediately focused their attention on the city below. So that's Lucian City? Aileen asked excitedly.
She had not forgotten the purpose of their journey. That's right, the driver said proudly.
This is the territory ruled by His Majesty Lucian. It's nothing like any city you've seen before. You'll be amazed once you arrive.
Why do you say that?
Aileen asked, curious.
Because Lucian City isn't just a city where humans live, the driver explained.
Countless Pokémon live here as well.
Pokémon, the sisters repeated softly. They had read in the newspapers that magical beasts were now called Pokémon. Unlike many others, they were not afraid of such creatures. Near their forest, there had always been docile Pokémon living quietly alongside humans. But what interested them even more was something else.
What kind of person is His Majesty Lucian?
Joyce asked. He's the best king in the world, the driver said without hesitation, his tone filled with respect. His Majesty stopped the war and has done so much for ordinary people like us.
Being able to serve him is an honor.
The four sisters exchanged glances.
Joyce then asked, are there joys in Lucian City?
Of course, the driver replied, scratching his head. 2 Nurse Joys work at the Pokémon Center there.
Uncle, can I ask you something?
Joyce said hesitantly.
Sure. Do you think it's strange that the four of us look exactly alike?
The driver thought for a moment, then replied, it is a little unusual.
But you're all human, just like everyone else. You have eyes, noses, and mouths.
Some people say getting close to Nurse Joy brings bad luck, but we go to the Pokémon Center all the time, and nothing bad ever happened.
He laughed awkwardly.
I'm not good with words, but Nurse Joy is very kind.
Thanks to them, both my illness and braviaries were cured quickly last time.
As he spoke, the city beneath them rapidly grew closer.
Look, we've arrived.
Braviary lowered its altitude and slowly descended onto the landing platform of the flying taxi company. The 4 Joys stepped out of the vehicle. The driver and Braviary waved goodbye. If you're heading to the Pokémon Center, go straight through that intersection, the driver said.
You'll see a red-roofed building on the right. Someone will be waiting for you there.
Thank you, Uncle, Aileen waved enthusiastically. The driver smiled and turned back to his duties. The 4 sisters turned around and stood on the unfamiliar street, looking around with wide-eyed curiosity.
Pokémon were everywhere.
Some played with children in the streets, others perched lazily on rooftops. Some helped people carry goods or work side by side with them, while others strolled leisurely, enjoying food together with humans. The road beneath their feet was paved with clean, neatly laid red bricks. On both sides of the street, shops displayed a dazzling variety of goods. The people passing by wore elegant clothing, long robes made of fine cashmere that looked incredibly expensive at a glance. The city was prosperous, lively, and bustling with activity. For the 4 sisters, who had grown up in the countryside and were visiting a city for the first time, the sight was almost overwhelming. They subconsciously slowed their steps, feeling both awe and restraint.
Just like the driver said. Pokémon really are everywhere here, Rin couldn't help but whisper.
Although Rin was usually mature for her age, standing in this unfamiliar environment made her feel nervous. She instinctively moved closer to her eldest sister.
Big sister. Rin murmured softly.
It's all right, Aileen said gently, holding her hand.
Let's go to the Pokémon Center first. Following the driver's directions, they soon spotted a red-roofed building by the roadside. There was no doubt about it.
This was the Pokémon Center. The doors were open.
As soon as the four sisters stepped inside, they saw many joys already gathered there.
Some wore nurse uniforms openly, while others still hid their faces beneath hoods and veils, clearly not yet accustomed to being seen. Judging from their expressions, these joys had likely heard the same news and traveled from different cities, just like them.
Sister, there are so many joys here, Ivy whispered in disbelief.
Aileen held her younger sister's hand tightly. Even as the eldest, she could not help feeling nervous in this moment. Just then, a Joy dressed neatly in a nurse's uniform and cap stepped forward from the crowd. Her gaze swept over everyone present, and a gentle smile appeared on her face. Please don't be nervous or worried, she said softly. I'm Joy, one of the doctors working at this Pokémon Center.
Welcome to Lucian City. I believe all of you came here for the same reason we did.
We want to live normal lives in the city, without fear of being driven away or treated as symbols of misfortune. Her words caused many of the Joys to stiffen slightly.
Perhaps you've all experienced such things before, Joy continued calmly. But I can promise you this. In Lucian City, that will never happen again.
Her voice echoed through the hall. The room fell silent.
After a long moment, one of the Joys finally asked hesitantly, then, what do we need to do? Nurse Joy smiled warmly.
His Majesty Lucian has already arranged suitable work for us. As you can see, we will serve as doctors in Pokémon centers.
Pokémon centers are being built throughout the kingdom, and they are severely understaffed.
If you are willing, you can sign up here, she said, gesturing to a desk nearby. Our instructor, Ms. Lila, will teach you everything you need to know to become a Pokémon doctor.
Once you complete your training, you can be assigned to Pokémon centers in other cities.
You don't need to worry about being driven away, she added gently.
Because we are working under His Majesty Lucian.
And if we sincerely help both people and Pokémon, then one day, they will truly change how they see us. The Joys listened in silence.
Many lowered their heads, gripping their sleeves tightly. After a long pause, one voice trembled slightly as it asked, can we really live like normal people? Chapter 195, Volcarona.
Not being driven away by people, not being feared or hated, and being able to live openly like ordinary people on this land was the dream shared by every Joy. When that question was asked, all the Joys present turned their gazes toward the woman in the nurse's uniform, waiting anxiously for her answer. Of course. She looked at the familiar faces before her, then slowly began to recount her story. In the past, my sister and I were just like all of you. Wherever we went, we were rejected and chased away. People treated us as cursed and unlucky, believing that approaching us would bring misfortune. Back then, my sister and I nearly lost our lives because of this, she continued softly. Until one day, we came to Lucian City and met His Majesty Lucian.
He personally met with my sister and me.
Not only that, he found us a place to live, arranged for us to study medicine under Miss Lila, and later helped us secure stable jobs.
Lena smiled faintly.
As you can see now, my sister and I became doctors.
We work every day to treat injured people and Pokémon.
Today, the people here no longer look at us with fear or disgust.
We truly love our work.
By helping others, we earn a respectable income every month. We can buy the clothes we like, decorate our homes, and live freely, just like everyone else. As Lena spoke, the Joys around her listened intently, their eyes filled with longing. Before long, several of them clenched their fists quietly. They had made up their minds. They would stay here and study. They would strive to live that kind of life. Your Majesty Lucian, Elif reported inside the castle, the number of joys within the territory has now reached 78, and more are still arriving.
All of them came from other regions. They are currently studying medicine under Miss Lila as you instructed.
Before long, they will be qualified to work at Pokémon centers in other cities.
Lucian nodded, already forming plans in his mind.
It was now the 150th year of the kingdom calendar.
Academies across the land had long begun teaching children Pokémon-related knowledge.
Pokeballs had been successfully developed and were on the verge of mass production. And now, joys were finally in place. Next spring, he would officially launch the next phase of his strategy.
Fully promoting trainers and popularizing Pokémon battles throughout the Unova region. However, one issue still remained. Who should serve as gym leaders in each region?
Lucian had no intention of changing the league system. He planned to follow the structure he knew well.
Each trainer would need to collect 8 gym badges to qualify for the league tournament. The first place winner would become the regional champion. Those ranked 2nd through 5th would become members of the Elite Four. None of these positions would be permanent. A league champion could continue challenging the Elite Four and the champion.
Defeating an Elite Four member allowed one to take their seat.
Defeating the champion meant inheriting the title and its glory. However, the current number of trainers in the kingdom was still very limited.
Although humans and Pokémon had begun living together, very few people could truly be called trainers, let alone gym leaders.
Most of them were concentrated in Lucian City.
Anna, Gerald, and the students from the Pokémon Academy came to mind. The former soldiers could barely be considered half-trainers. Still, after a year of training, their strength should have improved considerably.
Why not select 8 of them as the first gym leaders? Lucian thought. For now, that's the only feasible option.
After a moment, he shook his head lightly.
We'll refine the system gradually as more trainers emerge.
Having decided, Lucian said to Elif, issue the order. Have the Pokémon Academy hold a Pokémon battle tournament.
Select the 8 strongest trainees. Elif paused slightly. Your Majesty?
I have an important task for them, Lucian replied with a faint smile.
You'll understand once the tournament is over.
Yes, Your Majesty, Elif answered, turning to relay the order.
Lucian then reviewed the territory's financial records.
Since the introduction of the steam engine and the establishment of factories, the handicraft industry had grown rapidly. Merchants transported these goods to other cities, generating substantial profits. The open-air arena provided a steady income.
Taxes and tourism revenue continued to rise.
Tourism, in particular, had surged. With the Pokémon Flying Taxi network now operating across the region, visitors poured into Lucian City daily, stimulating commerce and accelerating development.
Overall, the national treasury was healthy. But in the early stages of nation building, money was needed everywhere. Pokémon centers required funding. Breeding houses needed maintenance. Sheltered Pokémon needed food. Civilians relied on unemployment aid and subsidies. While the kingdom was not operating at a loss, savings were limited. Still, this situation would soon improve.
Infrastructure across the land, Pokémon centers, friendly shops, schools, and breeding houses were nearing completion. When the trainer industry fully develops, the revenue it brings to the kingdom will far exceed all prior investments. This is precisely why Pokémon battle culture is so enduring and widespread. After finishing his official duties, Lucian left the palace and headed to the ecological park behind the castle, a place specially built for Pokémon to live, train, and relax. Dragonite, Serperior, Kyurem, Larvesta, Minccino, Vulpix, and Golett were all there. A timid little bird Pokémon and a sunflower Pokémon lay lazily in the grass, basking in the sun.
A Vulpix chased and played with a nimble monkey Pokémon. A water-type otter floated on its back in the pond, drifting peacefully. Dragonite sat on the lawn, happily eating snacks and drinking juice. Serperior coiled quietly beneath a tree, watching everything unfold with calm eyes.
Golett stood completely still, as if lost in thought.
And not far away, Larvesta was battling Kyurem.
Since the war ended and Kyurem had joined him, Lucian no longer felt the same urgency to push all his Pokémon to rapidly increase their strength. Still, even though Lucian had been busy with governance and rebuilding Unova, Dragonite and the others had never stopped training. Under Kyurem's guidance and sparring, their strength had been steadily improving day by day.
At this moment, the Pokémon noticed Lucian's arrival. Dragonite's eyes immediately lit up.
It abandoned its food without hesitation, flew straight toward Lucian, and wrapped its arms around him in an enthusiastic hug.
Awoo! Lucian, we just saw each other an hour ago. Dragonite didn't care.
It simply wanted to stay close to Lucian.
Lucian smiled helplessly, patted Dragonite's head, and then turned to look at the battle not far away. Calling it a battle was generous. It was more like Kyurem unilaterally overwhelming Larvesta.
Facing an incomparably powerful opponent, Larvesta unleashed everything it had.
Flames burst violently from its body as it attacked again and again, trying desperately to break through Kyurem's defenses. Its companions had all grown stronger, many of them evolving, but it hadn't. That thought gnawed at Larvesta's heart. It wanted to evolve. It wanted to become stronger.
It wanted to stand beside Lucian, not fall behind.
Because of this, it had been training harder than ever.
Yet no matter how fierce its attacks became, Kyurem remained calm and unmoving, like an immovable mountain.
Kyurem gazed at Larvesta. He could clearly sense its determination and its unwillingness to give up.
After a brief pause, he nodded slightly.
I understand your resolve, Kyurem said calmly. In that case, I will help you fulfill it.
The moment his words fell, an incomparably scorching flame erupted from Kyurem's body.
This was no ordinary fire. It was true flame, capable of incinerating everything in the world.
After fusing with Reshiram, Kyurem had regained his original power, and with it, the authority of sacred fire.
The blazing flames surged forward like a roaring fire dragon.
Even Larvesta, a fire-type Pokémon, felt a chill run through its body at the overwhelming heat.
The flames it normally wielded felt fragile and insignificant by comparison.
But the expected pain never came. The flames did not strike directly. Instead, they spiraled outward, forming a massive vortex of fire that completely surrounded Flamebug. No, more precisely, they enclosed it.
Kyurem had no intention of attacking. Realizing this, Larvesta panicked nonetheless. It desperately spewed flames, trying to break through the vortex. But the moment its fire touched Kyurem's flames, it was swallowed whole, instantly merging into the vortex as if it had never existed. Larvesta's panic deepened. Then, Lucian's voice rang out. Don't panic, Larvesta. Feel that fire, Kyurem is helping you. As an observer, Lucian understood Kyurem's intent perfectly. This was not destructive flame, but a trial. A fire meant to temper, refine, and awaken. Legend said that when humanity abandoned truth and drowned in desire, Reshiram's flames would reduce kingdoms to ashes. This was that same power. Hearing Lucian's words, Larvesta forced itself to calm down. It steadied its breathing and looked inward. If its flames were useless, then what remained? Its body. That was it. Larvesta suddenly seemed to remember something, its eyes lighting up. Its body was made of fire. If that was the case, perhaps it could break through using brute force. Without hesitation, Larvesta steadied itself and charged headlong into the vortex of flames. The moment half its head emerged, an invisible force slammed it back. The scorching flames licked across its body. Larvesta cried out in pain, its mind reeling, but the brief moment it had broken through proved one thing clearly. If it had enough strength, it could get out. Ignoring the pain, Larvesta gathered its strength again and charged forward. Once more, it was repelled. This time, the burns left by the true fire were even more severe. Pain flooded its senses. For a moment, the thought of giving up surfaced. But then Lucian's face appeared in its mind. Larvesta shook its head violently, casting that thought aside. Lucian was waiting for it outside. It couldn't let Lucian down. So it charged again. And again.
Again and again, it hurled itself at the vortex of true fire.
Each attempt failed. Each attempt left its body more battered than before. Huff, huff. Time slipped by.
Larvesta's strength was nearly gone.
It stood before the blazing vortex, panting heavily, its legs trembling. It was at its limit. Just then, Lucian's voice rang out once more.
Seeing that Larvesta had reached a critical moment, Lucian called out loudly.
Larvesta, don't give up. When you come out, we'll go eat roasted grapefruit together. Lucian. Hearing that voice, Larvesta forced itself upright. That's right. It couldn't give up. Lucian was still waiting for it.
And it would never let Lucian down.
Gritting its teeth, Larvesta gathered the very last of its strength.
With a hoarse cry, it charged toward the vortex of true fire one final time.
Pain. Burning. Agony swept through its body.
Half of its head broke through the flames. Through the fire, it saw Lucian standing ahead.
Just a little more. Just a little more.
Ignoring everything else, Larvesta unleashed the last spark of its life force and broke through the vortex in one decisive surge. The true fire surged over its body, no longer repelling, but cleansing. In that instant, a blinding light erupted from Larvesta's body. The flames coiled tightly around it, forming a massive cocoon of fire.
Within the cocoon, its form rapidly transformed.
Moments later, as the light slowly faded, a new Pokémon emerged. A majestic moth-like Pokémon gently flapped its 3 pairs of orange-red wings.
Its sky-blue eyes shone clearly. Red antennae extended from its head.
Its plump body was encircled by a ring of soft white down, supported by 4 small legs.
As its wings fluttered, it slowly descended, landing gently before Lucian. Kiram watched silently, then nodded slightly, a trace of approval in his eyes. It had succeeded.
Congratulations, Larvesta. No, Lucian said warmly, smiling.
From now on, I should call you Volcarona.
Volcarona, the sun Pokémon.
Once revered by humans as the embodiment of the sun itself.
Legends say it is born from a cocoon of flame, appearing during harsh winters to save both humans and Pokémon from the cold. Yet the Volcarona standing before Lucian showed none of the solemn divinity of legend. Instead, it squinted its eyes happily and fluttered forward like an excited child, nudging closer to Lucian, clearly waiting for praise and a gentle touch from its parent.
Chapter 196, Gym Leader Selection. Pokémon, Volcarona. Type, Fire/Bug. Gender, Male. Ability, Flame Body. Moves:
Fire Dance, Flare Charge, Bug Resistance, Flare Blitz, Flame Spin, Ember, String Shot, Flamethrower, Sunny Day, Heat Wave, Calm Mind, Psychic.
Friendship, 100. History: Kingdom Calendar 149, born as Larvesta. Kingdom Calendar 150, evolved into Volcarona through rigorous training. Lucian gently stroked Volcarona's antennae while reviewing its data. As expected, after its evolution, Volcarona had mastered many new moves.
Its talent in controlling and comprehending fire-type energy was extraordinary, far beyond what an ordinary Pokémon of its kind should possess.
Unfortunately, this was an ancient era, thousands of years before the modern age.
There were few opportunities for Volcarona to truly display its power.
Moreover, they now stood at the very pinnacle of strength in the Unova region.
If this were modern times, Lucian would have undoubtedly taken Volcarona and Dragonite to league tournaments, letting them spar with elite trainers and test their limits.
Volcarona's 3 pairs of wings fluttered softly as it squinted its eyes in delight, basking in Lucian's gentle touch.
A warm, soothing aura radiated from its body, like a living hearth.
Just imagining a Volcarona by one's side during a harsh winter was enough to make anyone feel comforted. And yet, watching Volcarona enjoy his affection like an oversized kitten, Lucian couldn't help but smile.
Even after evolving, it was still a child in his presence.
Not far away, Dragonite noticed the attention Volcarona was receiving and immediately grew dissatisfied. Its plump, increasingly round body squeezed in between them without hesitation. Volcarona refused to yield, pressing its head firmly against Dragonite's. A whoosh! Whoosh! Invisible sparks seemed to crackle between the two Pokémon. Lucian. The nearby Vulpix, Oshawott, and other Pokémon were quickly drawn in by the lively atmosphere, happily gathering around Lucian and Dragonite.
Looking at the scene, Lucian let out a helpless sigh, equal parts warmth and exasperation. Having too many Pokémon and not enough hands to pet them all was truly a luxurious problem. Off to the side, Kyurem watched quietly and nodded. It could already see the future of the Unova region, not just Lucian, but humans and Pokémon alike, living together in harmony, just as Lucian and his companions did now.
This was Lucian's true ideal.
And Kyurem would stand beside him and witness the arrival of that era.
Lucian City, Pokémon School. The current principal, Griffin, suddenly received an official directive. His Majesty had decided to hold a Pokémon battle tournament at the school. The 8 students who emerged victorious would be entrusted with an important mission.
Griffin wasted no time. The announcement was quickly relayed to the teachers, and soon spread throughout the academy.
Before long, every student knew. Did you hear?
His Majesty Lucian is personally selecting 8 of us for a special mission.
Seriously? His Majesty said it himself?
Of course.
Principal Griffin announced it.
The school erupted in excitement. For these students, His Majesty Lucian was not just a king, he was a legend.
Being chosen to serve him was the dream of every aspiring trainer. No matter what, I won't miss this chance. Melanie, I won't lose to you this time.
Alex clenched his fist, his eyes burning with determination.
Melanie didn't reply.
Instead, she glanced at the Lopunny beside her. Lopunny met her gaze and nodded lightly. Trainer and Pokémon were perfectly in sync, no words needed.
This opportunity would not slip through their fingers.
Across the campus, tension and excitement rose together as students prepared themselves. Meanwhile, Lucian did not attend the tournament personally. The steel mill had already produced a large quantity of rails, and steam locomotives powered by newly completed engines stood ready. For nearly a week, Lucian worked alongside engineers and planners, personally mapping out the railway routes between major cities. Once the plans were finalized, they were handed over to the railway workers for construction. Currently, manpower and resources were limited, and the steam locomotives were still in the trial operation phase. Lucian decided to open only 2 railway routes first in order to observe how things developed. His primary targets were Twin Dragon City and Black City, the 2 cities closest to Lucian City. Stations would be constructed in both locations. Once the tracks were fully laid and safety tests completed, the steam trains would officially enter service. When that happened, the pace of development across the Unova region would change dramatically. Meanwhile, after 7 days of intense competition, the gym leader selection tournament at the Pokémon School finally came to an end. Inside the castle, Elif respectfully handed Lucian a neatly organized list. Lucian took it and carefully reviewed the contents.
It contained detailed information on each of the 8 students who had emerged victorious. Selected candidates: Alex, male, 15. Pokémon, Imbor, Darumaka, Magby. Melanie, female, 14. Pokémon, Lopunny, Azurill, Skitty. Fallen, male, 17. Pokémon, Flaffy, Eevee, Electabuzz. Alland, male, 16. Pokémon, Excadrill, Crocodile. Linda, female, 15. Pokémon, Scolipede, Crobat. Ariel, female, 18. Pokémon, Roserade, Levany, Lilligant. Christine, female, 17. Pokémon, Psyduck, Bizel, Swanna. Johnny, male, 17. Pokémon, Golem, Geodude. Your Majesty, these are the 8 students who ultimately won the competition, Elif said. Lucian nodded slowly. Based on his earlier theory, that Pokémon of similar elemental types were easier to train together and developed more efficiently,
most of these students had instinctively formed teams centered around a primary type.
That was exactly what Lucian wanted.
Fire, normal, electric, ground, bug, grass, water, rock, 8 distinct types.
8 gyms. Perfect. These will serve well as the foundation of Unova's first gym system, Lucian thought.
Aloud, he said, I want to meet them. Yes, Your Majesty, Elif replied immediately. I will make the arrangements at once. Turning, he left to summon the 8 chosen students to the castle.
Chapter 197, 8 Masters. First floor of the castle, hall between the thrones.
Alex, Melanie, and the others had already been waiting there for quite some time. Their faces were flushed, and their eyes were filled with barely concealed excitement, as though merely standing in this place was an honor beyond measure. After all, it was His Majesty Lucian who had summoned them. For most of them, this was their first time setting foot inside the royal castle. It was far grander than anything they had ever imagined. The soaring ceilings, the polished stone floors, the solemn atmosphere that seemed to carry the weight of history itself. Just being here made their hearts pound uncontrollably. Several of the children swallowed nervously. They all came from ordinary families. Before the war, they had lived simple lives in their villages, cutting grass, herding livestock, and helping their parents survive from day to day. And now, they were standing in the royal castle, about to meet the king himself. If someone had told them a year ago that this would happen, they would have laughed it off as a ridiculous fantasy. Yet here they were. Elif watched the group with a gentle smile. Seeing their nervous expressions, he spoke reassuringly.
Do not be nervous.
His Majesty Lucian is a very benevolent king. The students looked toward him.
Johnny hesitated for a moment before gathering the courage to ask. Lord Elif, do you know what His Majesty intends for us? Elif merely smiled. You will find out soon enough, once His Majesty arrives. Just then, footsteps echoed from the far end of the hall. All conversation stopped.
A moment later, His Majesty Lucian appeared, dressed in regal robes, a crown resting upon his head. He ascended the throne and took his seat, his gaze calm, gentle, yet carrying unquestionable authority as it slowly swept over the 8 youths before him. Almost instinctively, they dropped to one knee. Your Majesty Lucian. Lucian smiled faintly. Rise, all of you. The group stood, their excitement impossible to hide. They had truly met the king. No, the king had spoken to them personally. You have all worked extremely hard to stand here today, Lucian said, his voice steady and warm. Out of hundreds of trainees, you emerged victorious. That alone proves your talent and determination. Hearing those words, the 8 straightened their backs, pride surging in their chests. Now, the timing is perfect, Lucian continued. I have an important task to entrust to you. One that may shape the future development of this kingdom. Here it comes. All 8 of them grew visibly more alert, their anticipation rising. Lucian smiled slightly at their reactions. However, before that, I wish to ask you a few questions. Alex hesitated, then stepped forward slightly. Please ask, Your Majesty. Lucian nodded. What do you believe the profession of a trainer truly represents? Trainer. Melanie paused, thinking carefully before answering. Is it someone like us? Someone who lives with Pokémon and trains alongside them? That is correct, Lucian replied. And what else? Melanie frowned slightly. Training Pokémon was all she had ever known. Beyond that, she was unsure. At that moment, Alex's eyes lit up. I know, he said eagerly. Battles. Pokémon battles. A trainer trains Pokémon for a purpose, to fight other trainers, to grow stronger together. Since the construction of the Grand Arena, Alex frequently brought his Embor there to battle. It allowed them to sharpen their skills through real combat, and it also earned them prize money from ticket revenue, helping support his family. Lucian gave Alex an approving look. Exactly. Training is merely the process. A trainer's true purpose is to grow stronger together with their Pokémon. The others nodded in sudden understanding.
Lucian continued, his gaze steady.
Next year, I will formally promote the profession of trainer throughout the kingdom.
At the end of the year, a national tournament will be held in the royal capital. Trainers from every region will gather here, he said.
They will battle until a single champion stands at the top.
The moment those words left his mouth, the eyes of all 8 trainees shone brightly with excitement. Alex clenched his fists.
He would win this championship, no matter what. However, Lucian continued calmly, given that the number of participants may be extremely large, including many newcomers, I have decided to introduce certain requirements in order to streamline the competition. To participate in this grand tournament, a trainer must first collect all 8 gym badges.
Gym badges?
The unfamiliar term caused everyone to freeze. They exchanged glances, confusion flickering across their faces. Then, almost simultaneously, realization dawned.
There were exactly 8 of them.
I intend to select 8 cities within the kingdom and establish 8 different gyms, Lucian said slowly. The reason I summoned you here today is because I want each of you to go to one of those cities, become a gym leader, and reside there permanently. As gym leaders, you will accept challenges from trainers. If they defeat you, you will award them your gym badge. Understanding lit up the faces of Melanie and the others. Alex, however, frowned slightly.
Your Majesty, he asked, if we become gym leaders, will we still be able to participate in the tournament?
Of course, Lucian replied without hesitation. At the end of the year, gym leaders will be granted 8 additional qualification slots. The ultimate winner of the tournament will become the strongest individual in the kingdom of Eindhoek. They will be crowned champion. The next 4 ranked trainers will become the Elite 4, standing directly beneath the champion. Whether champion or Elite 4, Lucian continued, your names will be known throughout the kingdom.
You will represent Eindhoek as you walk this land.
Of course, Lucian did not elaborate on the full responsibilities tied to those titles. The champion and the Elite 4 were not merely symbols of strength. They were the final line of defense against disasters caused by powerful wild Pokémon, incidents beyond the ability of ordinary soldiers to handle. Wild Pokémon often wandered close to human settlements, damaging crops or threatening lives. Simple cases, such as a Diglett disturbing farmland or a Psyduck stealing tools, could be handled by traveling trainers. But when true danger arose, it was the champion and the Elite 4 who would step forward. This was why trainers were called the bridge between humans and Pokémon. However, the 8 youths standing before Lucian had not yet thought that far. Their minds were still echoing with his words. Champion. Elite 4. Strongest in the kingdom. Names resounding across the land. Could they truly reach such heights? In that moment, a fierce, burning determination ignited in all 8 pairs of eyes. Lucian watched their expressions and smiled. After you become gym leaders, the Trainers Association will provide funding and a very generous monthly salary, he added. If you wish, you may also bring your families to live with you in the city where your gym is located. The association will construct your gyms, provide residences, and handle all living arrangements. Your Majesty, I am willing, someone shouted immediately, unable to restrain themselves.
I am willing too, Your Majesty Lucian.
And me.
Chapter 198, Plans for the Coming Year. After the gym leaders were chosen, the next issue was selecting the sites for the gyms.
The Unova region has no shortage of cities. At one extreme lies the bustling, densely populated metropolis of Castelia City, at the other, tiny villages such as the remote Lacunosa town. A gym's location had to be chosen not only based on the city's size, but also its geographic position and overall suitability. Elise spread a map of the Kingdom of Eindhoek across the long wooden table. Every settlement in Unova was clearly marked.
Your Majesty, these are all the towns in the kingdom.
Aside from a few hamlets scattered in the wilderness that are too small to note, every major settlement has been labeled for you.
I see.
Lucian gave a slight nod, his gaze slowly sweeping across the towns.
Castelia City, Black City, Oplucid City, Nakreen City.
Lucian began to ponder.
If he were a trainer from Novima town, what route would be the most convenient? And if he came from Lacunosa town, which direction should he choose? The gyms mustn't cluster together, Lucian said thoughtfully. They should ring the kingdom evenly, north and south. That will make travel easier for trainers, sparing them needless detours if a sensible route is planned. With that, Lucian had made up his mind.
A water-type gym in Castelia City, a normal-type gym in Striaton City, a rock-type gym in Nacrine City. With a quill in hand, he marked each location on the map and carefully wrote down the names of the 8 selected gym leaders. Everything was ready.
Lucian handed the map back to Elif.
Notify the trainer associations in these locations to prepare their gyms at once.
Yes, Your Majesty. Elif replied, hurrying off. Next, Lucian summoned Christina of the Royal Press Agency.
By now, the publicity campaign had been underway for some time. People throughout the kingdom already had a basic understanding of Pokémon and trainers. They might not yet fully accept living alongside Pokémon, but Lucian was confident that, given time, they would come to recognize their power. Christina, Lucian said gravely, I want you to open a special column in every regional newspaper to announce our upcoming plans.
Eh? Christina startled. Your Majesty, what should I do?
Starting next year, the capital, Nimbasa City, will host a nationwide Pokémon Battle Festival at the end of the year, Lucian said calmly. The strongest victor shall become the kingdom's champion, and I will personally bestow the honor. Christina's lips parted slightly as she immediately grasped his intent. For trainers, a personal award from His Majesty Lucian meant far more than mere glory. It promised fame, fortune, and status. Dreamers would flock here in droves.
But, Your Majesty. Christina hesitated, unsure how to voice her concern.
Lucian read her thoughts and smiled faintly.
Don't worry. This is simply the most direct way to spread the word. Here, rank and birth meant nothing.
As long as one possessed sufficient strength, even a former slave with nothing to his name could rise to the heavens. Becoming a trainer would soon become the dream of everyone in the land.
And that, in turn, would accelerate the fusion between humans and Pokémon. As you command, Your Majesty Lucian. Christina replied firmly.
Lucian nodded and continued, next spring, when the snow melts, every youth who has reached the age of 15 may go to the nearest trainer association, register as a trainer, and receive a starter Pokémon partner and a Pokeball. The gyms will officially open at that time. After defeating a gym leader, a trainer will earn a badge. Only those who collect all 8 badges will be eligible to enter the final festival. Yes, Your Majesty. Christina committed every word to memory. After leaving the castle, she returned to the agency and recorded Lucian's proclamation word for word for the next edition.
The Royal Workshop's printing presses ran throughout the night. By dawn, newspapers were being flown across the kingdom by Pokémon taxi. Castelia City, Castelia Tavern. Long before the war ended, men gathered here daily to drink barley beer and swap tall tales. Since the kingdom's unification, the tavern had added a new ritual, reading the newspaper. Each day, the owner purchased the latest issue and had it read aloud to the patrons. Many of the guests had never learned to read. Even if they could afford a newspaper, the printed words would mean little to them. So they came at the same hour, ordered a beer, and listened. Today was no different. Once enough customers had gathered, the owner signaled to a literate waiter to begin reading. The waiter was a thin, bright-eyed youth. The moment he saw the headline, his eyes widened and began to burn with excitement. This is... Derek, quit gawking, we're waiting, a bearded patron barked impatiently. Ah, right.
Sorry. Derek replied hastily. He began the usual recitation. Recently, the legendary Pokémon said to bring rich harvests, Landorus, Tornadus, and Thundurus, have departed from the capital. They will travel throughout the kingdom, bestowing strength upon the land, enriching the soil, and ensuring abundant crops.
Legendary Pokémon? Landorus? That sounds incredible.
Hard to believe those beasts really have such power.
Some still clung to the old terminology. Does that mean next year's harvest will be massive? Great, no more empty bellies. Our new king can even command legendary Pokémon, amazing.
The tavern buzzed with excitement. Once the chatter gradually died down, Derek took a breath and continued. Most of the remaining articles were everyday stories, accounts of Pokémon encountering humans and the help they provided. For example, one piece described a chef who met a Tepig while traveling in the wild. Tepig, being a Pokémon capable of breathing fire, gladly helped him cook. From then on, the chef no longer needed to gather firewood or strike flint, every meal was prepared with Tepig's cheerful flames. Though these were simple, slice-of-life tales, the listeners were utterly absorbed.
Many couldn't help imagining what life would be like if they had a Pokémon like Tepig of their own.
Hey, Derek, keep reading, a patron urged.
Derek nodded. His eyes shifted to a brand new column in the newspaper, and the moment he read the heading, a spark of excitement ignited within him. Starting next year, Nimbasa City will host a nationwide Pokémon Battle Festival every November. The ultimate victor, the strongest of all, will be crowned champion of the realm, and His Majesty Lucian will personally bestow the honor. Champion, the mightiest individual in the kingdom of Eindhoek.
Regardless of origin or status, victory grants the highest honor beneath the king himself. However, strength alone is not enough, only those who truly cherish Pokémon and grow alongside them may reach the summit. Derek's voice trembled as he read the passage aloud.
The tavern fell into complete silence. Champion. That sounds unbelievable. Is this what those envoys were talking about? Trainers and Pokémon?
Damn it, if I became champion, I'd be second only to the king.
Status. Glory. Fame.
The air itself seemed to burn with longing. In Eindhoek, social classes had long been rigid.
Though His Majesty Lucian had abolished slavery, commoners like them still lived worlds apart from the nobility. But if someone seized this title and received the king's personal recognition, wouldn't that place them above even the nobles? At that thought, restless hearts began to stir. Derek! How do we enter? Someone blurted out.
The paper says you must first become a trainer, Derek replied.
Trainer? The man blinked, recalling the envoy's speeches.
A trainer, someone who partners with Pokémon, grows stronger alongside them, and shares life at their side.
So we just catch a Pokémon? Another asked. Not quite. Derek shook his head. That alone isn't enough.
You also need to collect 8 gym badges.
Pokémon gyms will be established across the kingdom's major cities. Defeat each gym leader, earn their badge. Only after collecting all 8 badges will you qualify to enter the festival. A wave of gasps swept the room. That's impossible. They were laborers and craftsmen, bound to daily wages and family responsibilities. When would they find the time to travel the kingdom? And even wild Pokémon terrified them, how could they possibly defeat gym leaders? Derek smiled faintly. There's more.
Next spring, in March, anyone aged 15 to 19 may register at their nearest trainer association.
You'll receive your first Pokémon partner on the spot.
The association will also provide 6 Pokeballs and a regional map, free of charge. And once registered as a trainer, all Pokémon Center services will be available to you at no cost.
What?
Eyes widened across the tavern.
An age limit?
Then most of them were already too late. Yet a handful of faces lit up, voices trembling with excitement.
My boy turns 15 next year.
Come March, I'm dragging him straight to the association. He might have missed his chance, but his child hadn't.
If the boy became champion, the entire family would rise. An opportunity like this could not be ignored. Derek's heart pounded just as fiercely.
16 years old, a student at Castelia City's Pokémon school, yet poverty forced him to work nights at the tavern to support his family.
If he could receive a starter Pokémon and become a trainer, could he finally earn enough to give his mother a better life? Still, Derek's gaze drifted lower on the page. Wait, there's one more thing. What now? Someone asked. Every head turned.
The paper warns that traveling the wilds is dangerous. Beyond the cities lie vast, untamed regions where countless powerful and violent Pokémon roam.
Even with a Pokémon partner, safety is never guaranteed.
Before setting out, trainers are urged to prepare thoroughly, steel their resolve, and train relentlessly, because only strength can protect you.
The excitement in the room cooled instantly.
As the article said, while some Pokémon now lived peacefully among humans, the wilderness remained deadly.
Wild Pokémon attacked people. Death was a real possibility.
Well, I think I'll stay in town where it's safe, someone muttered. Most of the patrons were already in their 30s, having spent half their lives within city walls. Habit and fear of change held them firmly in place. Even those tempted weighed the risks carefully and chose the familiar. But Derek had already made a quiet decision.
He would become a trainer.
He would earn more money. He would give his mother a better life.
Hey, Derek, a patron asked with a grin, you're not seriously thinking of heading out there, are you? Derek neither confirmed nor denied it.
If I plan carefully, stick to the main roads, and avoid shortcuts, the dangers should be manageable, he said calmly. And I'll train my Pokémon properly before leaving, only when we're strong enough to protect ourselves.
Chapter 199, New Year.
Hey, Derek, becoming a trainer isn't that easy, an older man said slowly.
I've heard raising Pokémon costs a fortune.
He took a sip of his barley beer. When he noticed everyone turning to look at him, he set the mug down and lowered his voice mysteriously. Back when I used to deliver goods to the wealthy families in the city, I once heard a butler talking. His master keeps a Pokémon called Snorlax.
In a single day, it can eat an entire room's worth of food.
That much, someone exclaimed, eyes widening.
Just how enormous did Snorlax's stomach have to be to hold all that? My goodness. Pokémon really aren't something ordinary folks can afford to raise. Many people in the tavern knew Derek's situation well.
His family was barely scraping by, supporting himself was already difficult, raising a Pokémon would only add to the burden. And the wilderness was dangerous.
Derek lived alone with his widowed mother. If anything were to happen to him out there, how devastating would it be for her?
Though poor, the people here were kind at heart. Realizing this, they all began urging Derek to abandon the idea.
Wouldn't it be better to stay in the city, work honest part-time jobs, and after graduating from the Pokémon school, become a teacher? Hearing everyone's concern, Derek felt genuinely moved.
But Derek had always possessed a keen intuition. During his time at the Pokémon school, he had seen many things the others hadn't.
Pokémon. Trainers.
Types.
Moves. Special training. Breeding.
Battles.
Growth. These were concepts completely foreign to ordinary people. And Derek knew from his teachers that it wasn't just Castelia City, this transformation was happening all across the kingdom. One realization crystallized in his mind.
Their king was actively promoting Pokémon and trainers.
This profession would soon become mainstream.
And when that happened, the entire kingdom would change.
The greater the tide, the larger the fish. Growing up poor, Derek understood this truth better than most.
He thought of his mother. His father had died when he was young. His mother had raised him alone, weaving cloth day after day, stitch by stitch. Her hands, once soft, were now aged, cracked, and covered in chilblains from years of labor. As her son, he had to take care of her. And he was already 16.
Derek didn't want to remain poor forever.
He wanted to seize this opportunity, to give his mother a better life.
Hey, Derek! What are you spacing out about? Someone called. Derek snapped back to reality and smiled faintly. It's nothing. Thank you, everyone. I understand. Not all Pokémon could possibly eat like Snorlax, right? Derek recalled the newspaper articles introducing various Pokémon.
For example, the grass-type Oddish and the bug-type Levany were both said to be easy to raise. Oddish could replenish its energy simply by basking in sunlight, while Levany survived on leaves, grass, and common berries. Yeah, when the time comes, I can choose one of those, Derek thought quietly. Not just in Castelia City, but across all of Unova, newspapers heralding the dawn of a new era were delivered with the help of Pokémon flying taxis. Oplucid City, Accumula Town, Nakreen City. Under Lucien's deliberate promotion, the news reached every corner of the kingdom within a single week. Countless young boys and girls began eagerly awaiting the arrival of next spring. Inside the castle in Lucien City. Your Majesty, the trainer associations across the regions have prepared Pokémon suitable for novice trainers. Elif handed a stack of documents to Lucien, reports sent in by the regional trainer associations. These are Pokémon rescued from the wild during this period, as per your instructions. Some chose to return to the wilderness, while others remained at the associations. Lucien scanned the list and nodded thoughtfully. He had expected implementing these reforms to be extremely difficult, but everything was proceeding far more smoothly than anticipated. The regional trainer associations had already assembled starter Pokémon for new trainers, just as he had ordered. Most were wild Pokémon rescued near towns or from forests over the past year, including many displaced by the previous war. Everything was only beginning. They couldn't yet distribute the classic Starter 3 to everyone like in the old stories. For now, only Pokémon with gentle temperaments and high compatibility were suitable as starters. Still, Lucien believed that with time, the day would come when everyone could freely choose from the traditional starter Pokémon. He let out a slow breath. After everything he had done over the past year, even he felt exhausted. Rubbing his temples, Lucien said quietly, "You may leave." "Yes, Your Majesty." "I won't disturb your rest any longer," Elif replied, bowing before withdrawing. Once alone, Lucien stepped onto the castle balcony and looked out over the city below. Compared to a year ago, Lucien City had undergone earth-shaking changes. New houses and shops lined the streets. The roads were filled with travelers, merchants, scholars, commoners, and Pokémon everywhere. Beyond the city sprawled fertile farmlands and ranches, prosperity stretching as far as the eye could see. On the other side, towering factories rose into the sky. Countless ordinary figures merged into a great torrent, flowing into them day after day. Thick plumes of smoke billowed from massive chimneys, as if proclaiming the arrival of a new era. Amid the thunderous roar of machinery, the 150th year of the kingdom calendar came to an end. Winter arrived. After a year of toil, humans and Pokémon alike retreated indoors, relying on their stored provisions. As the year drew to a close, many institutions in Lucien City temporarily shut down. The Pokémon School entered winter break. The Pokémon Center remained open with only the Joy Sisters on duty. The Trainer Association closed its doors. Within the castle, Lucien granted leave to the soldiers and maids who normally stood guard, allowing them to return home and reunite with their families. With the staff gone, the castle felt strangely empty. Fortunately, many Pokémon still lived there. Vulpix, Oshawott, Adino. They chased one another through the halls, played hide-and-seek, and filled the empty castle with laughter. When they grew tired, they would dash into Lucien's bedroom and huddle together in front of the fireplace for warmth. With no maids on duty, Lucien handled everything himself, fetching berries, snacks, and other food from the storehouse and setting them out for the Pokémon. Voo! Vulpix let out a delighted cry. Oshawott picked up a berry and took a happy bite. There was no longer any trace of their former ragged, bedraggled appearances. It was clear that these Pokémon, once displaced by war, had now fully integrated into life in Lucien City. Lucien stood nearby with a gentle smile, quietly watching the Pokémon enjoy their snacks. At that moment, Dragonite noticed him. It trotted over, holding a biscuit in its claws, and offered it to him. Woo! Good food should be shared. Amused, Lucien smiled and patted Dragonite's head before accepting the biscuit. Don't worry about me. Go on and eat, he said. Woo dot. Suddenly, a series of loud explosions echoed from outside the castle.
Lucian stiffened slightly and stepped onto the balcony.
Looking up, he saw brilliant fireworks bursting across the dark night sky, blooming one after another.
It was the people of Lucian City, celebrating the arrival of the new year together.
The Pokémon inside the room were startled by the noise and hurried outside as well. At first, they thought danger had arrived, but when they saw the dazzling fireworks lighting up the heavens, they froze in place.
The flickering colors reflected in their eyes, briefly illuminating their faces. Woo! So beautiful.
Inside the room, Kiram, who had been lying quietly on the carpet with its eyes closed, was also drawn by the commotion. It opened its massive draconic eyes and gazed into the sky, watching the fireworks bloom and fade. A trace of wonder flashed through eyes that were usually solemn and majestic.
Human creations are truly beautiful. Kiram had never seen such a sight before. Lucian nodded with a smile. This is humanity.
Though their strength is weak, they use wisdom to create countless things and build homes upon this land. Even when faced with crisis, they never give up.
Yes, Kiram said after a pause, nodding slightly. Humans are stronger than I once believed. Lucian turned to Kiram.
There was a question he had long wanted to ask.
Kiram seemed to sense it. Turning its head, it spoke first. You have something on your mind.
Lucian was slightly surprised.
He glanced at Kiram's data, then asked, I've always wanted to know, after merging with you, did Reshiram and Zekrom disappear completely?
Kiram stared at him with its golden draconic eyes.
It did not answer immediately.
Then, with a flash of light, two beams, one white, one black, separated from Kiram's body. The white light formed to Kiram's left, transforming into an elegant, agile divine dragon clad in snow-white fur. The black light formed to its right, becoming a steady, powerful divine dragon standing upright, its body pitch black and imposing.
They were Reshiram and Zekrom. At that moment, Kiram, Reshiram, and Zekrom all looked toward Lucian.
There is no need to be surprised, Kiram said calmly.
I am the dragon of Tau. Tau gives birth to 1. 1 gives birth to 2. 2 gives birth to 3.
This is merely a manifestation of my power.
Reshiram nodded gently, its voice warm and serene.
Lucian, I have already acknowledged your truth. Therefore, I will aid you in building the world you wish to create. On the other side, Zekrom also nodded in silence before speaking.
I have felt your ideals. I, too, will help you. Together, we will construct that ideal kingdom. Then, Kiram? Lucian asked instinctively. If Reshiram and Zekrom are separated, what happens to you? Lucian looked at Kiram. Kiram still maintained its form as the fused three-dragon entity. Tau gives birth to 1. 1 to 2. 2 to 3.
3 to all things, and all things return to nothingness, Kiram replied slowly.
Reshiram is me. Zekrom is also me.
There is no contradiction.
You carry both truth and ideals. Because of that, we will not divide again.
The voice of the Dragon of Tau was deep and profound, resonating with an almost unfathomable mystery. Yet as Lucian looked at Reshiram and Zekrom standing before him, a realization struck him. From now on, could he wield the power of Reshiram, Zekrom, and the unified Kiram at the same time? If you wish, we can naturally remain by your side in these forms, Reshiram said softly.
Lucian fell silent, thinking.
Will doing so affect Kiram's strength? He asked. The impact is minimal, Kiram replied.
We have not truly separated. It is merely.
Kiram paused, as if struggling to find the right words. Suddenly, inspiration struck Lucian.
1 breath transforms into the 3 pure ones.
That description is acceptable, Kiram said, nodding slightly.
I see. I understand now. Lucian exhaled, his heart easing. He felt a quiet joy rise within him. This meant he could freely wield the power of all 3 dragons of Tau.
Lucian turned back toward the balcony, standing beside the Pokémon as they watched the fireworks blossom across the night sky. From this day forward, no one in the Unova region would be able to block their path. Whether the coming era was industrial or electrical, such progress was inevitable, it was simply a matter of time. And their task was to hasten that future. To completely integrate humans and Pokémon, until the world became the utopia once depicted in legends. No oppression. No enslavement. Only love for Pokémon, and the resolve to live and grow stronger together. Time passed swiftly. In the blink of an eye, it was March of the 151st year of the Kingdom calendar. Inside the castle of Lucian City. Your Majesty, the Trainer Association in Castelia City is ready. Oplucid City is also prepared. More than 500 Pokémon under the association's care are ready as well. Nakreen City is ready. Lucian listened to the continuous reports from across the kingdom, then nodded slightly. His gaze swept over the representatives of the regional trainer associations gathered below. Then he gave the order. Then let it begin. As you command, Your Majesty, they replied in unison. The representatives departed the royal city, returning to their respective towns aboard Pokémon flying taxis. Kingdom Calendar, Year 151, March 12, early spring. The day new trainers would receive their starter Pokémon had finally arrived. Chapter 200, The First Wind Rises. Accumula Town, early spring. Rolling meadows of grass and blossoms wrapped around the small town, flowing with the hills to form a scene of quiet, pastoral beauty. Inside one of the houses, a woman wearing an apron climbed to the second floor. She knocked on a wooden door and called out gently. Freya, time to get up. Isn't today the day you go to the Trainer Association to receive your first Pokémon? If you keep lazing around, they might all be gone. Inside the room, a 16-year-old girl jolted awake. Rubbing her eyes as her mother's voice reached her ears, she let out a panicked cry. Oh no, I'm going to be late. Russell, Russell! The sudden shout startled a Pidove perched on a branch outside the window. The common Pokémon flapped away in alarm. Freya threw off her blanket, didn't bother washing or eating, and dashed straight out of the house, shouting over her shoulder. Mom, save breakfast for me. The woman could only sigh helplessly as she watched her daughter disappear down the road. That child. She entered the room and began straightening the rumpled bedding, but worry flickered in her eyes. Had it really been the right decision to let Freya become a trainer? The wilderness was nothing like the safety of town. Dangerous wild Pokémon roamed everywhere, and a single careless mistake could invite disaster. Even setting Pokémon aside, survival itself would be difficult for a girl who had just turned 16. Food supplies. Clean clothes. Healing herbs. If everything went smoothly, fine, but what if she got lost? What if her provisions were ruined? Yet Freya, her head filled with dreams of Pokémon partners and adventure, noticed none of her mother's fears. She sprinted straight toward the town's trainer association. Though Accumula Town was remote, His Majesty Lucian had still ensured that a trainer association was established here. At the entrance, Freya found a crowd of young people already waiting. They weren't only from Accumula Town, many had come from nearby Novima Town and surrounding villages. There were quite a few people, but not as many as she'd feared. Probably a lot of parents were too worried about the wilds and didn't allow their kids to come, she thought. Taking a breath, she stepped inside and spoke nervously to a staff member. Excuse me. I'm here to receive my first Pokémon. What should I do? This way, please. Why yes, sir. The attendant led her into a room where 3 Pokémon were waiting. They had been chatting among themselves. When Freya entered, every head turned toward her at once. Their eyes sparkled with curiosity and hope. Each one was eager to see whether this human might become their partner. Freya felt her nerves tighten. She looked at them carefully. Over the past year, Accumula Town had opened a Pokémon school teaching basic knowledge, and bookstores sold illustrated guides. Through those, she had learned to recognize many Pokémon species. She immediately knew the 3 before her. From left to right, Patrat, Purloin, Psyduck.
These are the Pokémon prepared by the association, the attendant said kindly. Please choose one to become your partner. He gestured to the first. On the left is Patrat. It's extremely alert and excellent at scouting.
At the sound of its name, the Patrat hopped in place.
Patrat. It stared at Freya eagerly, eyes full of expectation. So cute. Like most girls, Freya had almost no resistance to adorable Pokémon.
But remembering that there were still two more, she forced herself to hold back. In the middle is Purloin, the attendant continued. It's agile and clever, skilled at ambushing opponents from unexpected angles. Unlike Patrat, Purloin remained calm. It merely curled its lips into a faint smile and regarded her with bright, calculating eyes.
A kitten Pokémon.
Her heart fluttered. Then the attendant turned to the last one.
On the right is Psyduck.
It may look absent-minded, but it can unleash a surprisingly powerful water gun.
Guh? Psyduck tilted its head and pressed its webbed hands against its temples, looking thoroughly confused. So, the attendant asked gently, which one will you choose?
A three-way choice.
Freya's gaze drifted between the three Pokémon, each so different from the others.
For the first time in her life, she truly understood what it meant to be torn between options.
Cuteness alone wouldn't keep her alive in the wild. Strength mattered. Patrat could warn her of danger. Purloin could outpace enemies. Psyduck could blast foes with water gun. Which one was best? This is so hard. The attendant waited patiently, offering no pressure. Finally, Freya took a deep breath. I've decided, Patrat. Patrat leapt into the air in delight. Patrat. The other two Pokémon couldn't completely hide their disappointment. Is that your final decision? The attendant asked. Freya nodded, avoiding their gazes. Yes. Final. For surviving in the wilderness, Patrat's alertness would be the most useful. Very well, the attendant said. From today onward, Patrat is your partner. You will travel together, live together, and care for one another. You must never abandon each other. Freya and Patrat met each other's eyes. They nodded together. Patrat. Now, please take this.
The attendant handed her a small package.
Inside was a book.
This was printed under His Majesty Lucian's orders, he explained. It contains illustrations and notes on known wild Pokémon to help trainers identify them.
Freya's eyes lit up.
This is perfect. Next, the attendant handed her several spherical devices.
This is Patrat's Pokeball. The association also provides 5 empty ones. However, we advise new trainers to capture sparingly. One person cannot properly care for too many Pokémon at once. Understood. Freya nodded vigorously.
And this, the attendant added, handing her another item, is your trainer identification. It confirms your status and records the gym badges you earn.
Please keep it safe. Freya accepted it with reverence, holding it carefully. All right, the attendant said with a warm smile. Your journey begins now.
Before you leave, we have a few important tips.
Please tell me. Freya said quickly. She knew this information would be vital.
For safety, we recommend staying in town for a while to train your Patrat.
Once it's stronger, you'll be better able to protect each other.
Also, when you consider capturing additional Pokémon, prioritize ones that can swim, use surf, or can fly. That way, if you encounter an uncrossable river, a water type can carry you across, or a flying type can speed up your travels.
Yes. We'll remember. Freya nodded earnestly, committing every word to memory. Meanwhile, in Castelia City, inside the Trainer Association,
Derek studied the 3 Pokémon before him, his expression calm but focused. On the left stood a small, blue, bipedal, puppy-like Pokémon, Riolu. In the center was a 4-legged mouse Pokémon with prominent front teeth, Rattata. On the right was a white, mushroom-shaped Pokémon whose cap resembled a Pokeball. Its stubby arms and wide pink mouth made it look oddly endearing. Fungus.
So, choose one, Derek murmured to himself. The three Pokémon looked back at him.
He crouched down, carefully observing their posture, expressions, and overall condition.
He wanted to become a powerful trainer.
He wanted to stand on the stage of the year-end tournament. He wanted recognition from His Majesty Lucian. Only then could he give his mother a better life. For that dream, he was prepared to give everything. Just like humans, Pokémon differed greatly in talent and potential. He had to choose the one with the greatest promise, and grow stronger together with it. Among the three, Riolu's gaze was steady and composed, its eyes filled with quiet determination.
Rattata, by contrast, shrank back slightly, clearly uneasy around strangers. Timid, Derek noted.
Fungus blinked its small eyes slowly, looking innocent and confused, like a child who didn't yet understand the world.
Child, an elderly voice said gently, which one will you choose?
The three Pokémon waited in silence. Derek had already made his decision.
Sir, he said firmly, I choose Riolu. Riolu.
The old man nodded approvingly.
An excellent choice. From now on, this Riolu will be your responsibility.
Yes, sir. After receiving further guidance and a package containing beginner supplies, the selection process was complete. Holding his newly issued trainer ID, Derek stepped out of the Trainer Association.
Next.
Train Riolu, grow stronger, challenge gyms, he said quietly to himself.
Castelia City had its own gym.
Once he was ready, he planned to test himself against its gym leader. But before that, there were things he needed to take care of.
In a quiet alley nearby, Derek stopped and looked at Riolu. Riolu, he said softly, I'm Derek. My dream is to become the strongest trainer in Eindhoek. Riolu's eyes flickered. It could feel the burning determination in its trainer's heart.
From today onward, Derek continued, voice steady, let's do our best together.
Woof. Riolu nodded.
Rather than rushing out onto the roads immediately, Derek returned home. Seeing the worry etched on his mother's face, he spoke gently to reassure her.
Mother, don't worry. I've grown up.
She sighed softly, knowing her son's stubborn nature all too well. Turning away, she took out a cloth bundle and unfolded it, revealing coins she had saved bit by bit over many years.
You'll need money on the road, she said quietly. Take this. Derek hesitated, then shook his head.
I've saved enough from working, he replied. And they say trainers are needed everywhere.
I can earn more while traveling.
Eat well while I'm gone, he added, smiling.
When I become a great trainer, I'll come back and take you to a better life.
A smile finally broke across her weathered face.
She sighed again. Listen to you, already telling me what to do.
Mother, Derek said seriously, I swear I'll give you a good life. All right, she replied softly, tears shining in her eyes.
I'll be waiting.
Derek stepped outside with Riolu at his side, fists clenched, resolve firm.
He would become a powerful trainer. Lucian City.
Lucian sat behind his desk as Elif reported statistics from the regional trainer associations. Your Majesty, all eligible youths have successfully received their starter Pokémon, as ordered.
Current reports indicate that approximately 3,000 individuals have formed their first partnerships. 3,000. Lucian murmured, nodding slightly. The number was neither high nor low.
Though he had actively promoted trainer culture, many still feared Pokémon. Combined with the dangers of the wilderness, 3,000 exceeded his expectations.
It will suffice, Lucian said calmly. Yet a question lingered in his mind. How many of them would survive until the end of the year?
Even in the old stories, trainers met with accidents.
In this harsher reality, casualties would undoubtedly be higher.
That was precisely why Lucian had refused to lower the starting age to 10. Even so, this path was necessary for the world's progress. To reduce losses, he had already implemented multiple safeguards, survival education in schools, encouraging trainers to train within cities before setting out, and advising them to prioritize flying and water-type partners whenever possible. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated to a Medieval Pokémon World.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.